Welcome to another episode of CHATS. I am your host, Samantha Tierra. Now listen, before we get right into the show, I want to just make a really quick shout out to one of my personal favorite wine brands, and that is Sip and Share Wines. If you're like me, you've worked hard, you've had a very long day, and you just need something to just kind of ease your way into the evening. Well, Sip and Share Wines has a myriad of wine choices, and one of my personal favorites is the Manifest Chardonnay. Now, this Manifest Chardonnay has a very nice oaky, buttery finish, and it is just what you need to just set the mood to having a very nice and relaxing evening. So again, check out Sip and Share Wines. You can visit the website sipandShareWines.com. If you're local to Indy, you can visit your local Total Wine store and you can make a purchase there as well. Now with our show today, have you ever been in front of someone that gives you goosebumps because of how accomplished they are? Well, our guest today simply gives me goosebumps, and I am super excited about our guest today. They're the incomparable Januarie York, who recently hosted the All Stars events. So check out their interview here next.
Well, when I published my book, Nomad, that was a very unique experience. This was my first opportunity publishing a full-length book of poetry and essays. And I just tried to use it to detail my appreciation for love and my appreciation for self-growth as well as travel. I learned a lot about publishing, about the process. I actually did not publish it myself. I published it through VK Presses, which is a Black woman-owned publishing company. She's located in San Diego, California, but she is from Indianapolis, Indiana. And just working with her was a game changer for me. She was very encouraging and patient at the same time. So it just was, it really was a good experience, and she helped me create a product that I would ultimately be proud of 10 years from now rather than just in the moment. I grew up traveling by road. My grandmother and my aunts were from Winona, Mississippi, so we used to drive back and forth to Winona quite a bit. So I always loved being in the car, traveling for long periods. But I was always afraid to fly. I actually wasted quite a few plane tickets before I started appreciating flying. But once I started flying, which was about my late 20s, early 30s, which was because of poetry, I just, the first opportunity to see something outside of the Midwest and outside of Winona, Mississippi showed me that the world really looks like some of the things that I see on TV. And I thought a lot of those things really didn't. I thought they were just Hollywood things. I didn't know that the mountains look like they do from above and from afar and from up close. So traveling has just become my way of appreciating the world that I feel like that God created for me to be a part of. It's a beautiful world, and it's so full of culture and love and ocean. I love the ocean. It's endless and it never stops moving, and I feel so inspired just by being in high places and in places near water and waterfalls. So that's where my love of travel comes from, just wanting to see more than what I've seen. I got my master's degree in 2021 in positive psychology, and I've released a well-being book for Black people, and it has been it was the greatest thing that I could do was go get my degree, because I had a wonderful program that refocused me into my artistry, and because of that I feel like a lot of doors have since opened. That's one of my greatest moments, is getting that degree, because that's something that I just never thought that I would even reach to do, but I did it, and I'm proud of myself. And first thing I did was go to Hawaii. I was actually really surprised when I got the call to be the Poet Laureate for the Center for Black Literature and Culture. That was not something that I had even thought about. And when she called me and asked me, I thought as she got closer to what she was saying, I thought that she was asking if I would like be a judge to help pick out the Poet Laureate. And when she was like, we've already done the judging and we want it to be you, we just want your permission, I was pretty mind blown by that. The downside was it happened during the height of COVID and the pandemic, so a lot of things were shut down or closed, so I was really limited towards what I could do. But they were very gracious with me. They still worked with me, got me a lot of projects, a lot of unique projects, and have allowed me to continue the position now that the pandemic is not passing, but everything is sort of starting to open back up. So I'll actually be doing a couple of things at the CBLC in April for poetry. So that's been a really great opportunity. I used to dream of being the laureate, and then I just kind of stopped because it didn't seem possible. So yeah, anything is possible. And I look up to Black women writers: Maya Angelou, Zora Neale Hurston, Alice Walker, Toni Morrison. The names are cliche, but those are the names that brought me into the appreciation for reading and just learning language and learning how to use language. I hope that my legacy pushes other people in general, but especially other Black women and Black girls, to tell their story and to be unapologetic about who they are and what they share in their story. And to take their time with telling their story, and to know that they're a legend in their own right, and that they are each building their own legacy. So, yeah. I went by Insatiable for about 5 years when I first started doing poetry. Maybe a little bit, about 5 years, maybe a little bit less actually. Insatiable was the part of me that was on a deeply personal healing story. I was not seeking anything from poetry other than to just be able to speak it. I changed my name when I realized that I had the opportunities and the potential to really do something with myself as a writer, not just as a poet, but just as a writer. And I could not envision my name being in the places that I wanted to see it in as Insatiable. So I changed it. And I changed it to Januarie York. It was a Twitter name at first. And then I was just like, well, what if I just make this my name? And I just said, let me see if people start calling me this if I tell them to. And they did. And I was right. Everything that I wanted to accomplish was accomplished under Januarie York. And it really was just an evolution of a woman going from needing a specific type of healing to going through kind of the phoenix or the coming out of the chrysalis, and then going back in and coming back out. Januarie York is running because Insatiable walked, but Insatiable walked because Kendria almost died. So no matter what I call myself, I'm always Kendria Smith, and I take her with me everywhere I go. So any name that I call myself is just an evolution of me and where I'm at in my life process and in my artistic process. But I don't think my name will change anymore because I just love me some Januarie York. What do I hope that people gain from me being so transparent and vulnerable? Would probably be that my therapist told me to walk in my truth, and I think I would hope that people get that from me, to just walk in your truth, to accept who you are, to accept where you are at that exact moment, to know that anything is possible and anything can change, and that you have all the power inside of you to create the life and the legacy that you want to create, and that you want to live. And the only way to do that is to walk in your truth and to know who you are, and to know that knowing who you are is a discovery process, and it's really a lifelong discovery process because we're always changing. So I just want people to know that it's okay to be exactly who you are right now in this moment. And it's okay for that person to be completely different tomorrow if that's what's naturally and organically in your story and in your journey, then go with it. So tonight's event is called All the Stars. It is to honor Maurice Broaddus, who is from Indianapolis. He's from across the pond, but he claims Indianapolis as his own as well. He is a wonderful science fiction, Afrofuturism writer, and he wanted to celebrate his book by celebrating his community. Community is a very big part of him as a writer, and him as a human being. We all gather on his porch once a week and have been for quite some time. And he gets a lot of his inspiration from the people in his community. So to release his book, which just came out last week, the Washington Times has called it something that you must read. In order to release his book, he entrusted me with my vision, and all he asked was to include the community. So tonight, the guests will be walking into Maurice's universe, and inside of his universe there are many galaxies, and the galaxies are the performers. The performers are the stars tonight. The stars represent being multidimensional. So what you know them normally for, you might see them in a different light tonight. They might be sharing something different about themselves. But each person has named their galaxy. We have the Call, the Mountaintop, Solari, and a couple others. You have to just come and see what the other ones are. But they are all unique, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And then we're going to top it all off with a short fashion segment, Afrofuturistic, all sizes, all ages. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. And then we're going to hear from Maurice himself, and we're going to end the night with a cipher to All the Stars by Kendrick Lamar, and then whatever else goes playing. We want everybody to join in on the cipher. The event is free. It's for the community. It is to honor the community and to honor Maurice. It is under my company name, a JY situation, but it's also in partnership with Cafe Creative and many other people. This has not been a solo project that I've put together, but it is going to be a lot of fun and a lot of blackness and a lot of celebration and a lot of science fiction Afrofuturism. Tonight's performers are Okara Amani, Corey Ewing, Tony Sticks, Pope Adrian Bless, Maurice Broaddus, and Januarie York.
Next up, we have award-winning and celebrated author Maurice Broaddus.
Hello, my name is Maurice Broaddus, author of Sweep of Stars. It's the first book in what's called the Astro Black Trilogy, and it follows the community of Muungano, which is a free Pan-African intergalactic empire, basically. And it's been the culmination of a lot of my dreams as an author. The Sweep of Stars has three basic storylines. So there's one that follows a research ship as they go through a wormhole. There's a storyline involving Muungano's military as they're exploring on the other side of the wormhole, and then the last storyline follows a lot of the politics of what it means to be a free black community in the shadow of an oppressive history. So this book's been described as Afrofuturistic, and Afrofuturism is a term that was coined back in like 1993 by a writer named Mark Derry. And when he coined the term, he was sort of lamenting the fact that there didn't seem to be a lot of black folks writing in the science fiction field, right? So he name checks Octavia Butler and Charles Saunders, Stephen Barnes, and Samuel Delany. But Afrofuturism is something we've always done. I think back to the works of Martin Delany or W.E.B. Du Bois, who a lot of people don't realize was also a science fiction writer. He's had a couple of different science fiction stories that have come out. Afrofuturism is something that we've always done. It's a critique of the present that's rooted in history, but most importantly, it always looks for us in the future. I remember I have a friend, Tanana Reeve Dew, and she says that the act of imagining ourselves in the future is an act of resistance. And so I proudly want to stand in the shadows of the folks who have come before me. So my journey to becoming an author, it's been a long one. It's been a long time in coming. I remember I wrote my first novel starting in 1993, believe it or not, and it took me 7 years to write my first novel. And don't get me wrong, that novel will never see the light of day. It was not good, but it did teach me a lot about what it means to be a writer, what it means to start something, to finish something, and to get that, just to build up that muscle of being a writer. Since then, I've gone on to publish, over 100 short stories of mine have been published in a variety of magazines. But the journey has been, honestly, I think the journey's just been one of perseverance, right? Because there's a lot of things that can just stop you from being a writer. Because it's hard. It's hard breaking into the industry. It's hard getting your work up to a level where, it's suddenly bursting through to all these different markets. And hey, sometimes some of these markets just don't even want you. But you know what? I don't write for them. I write for me. And so that can't be stopped. I'm going to keep writing, and that was my attitude when as I was coming up. And so, slowly bit by bit, I started having stories published, and then some of my stories being recognized. I was 40 when my first novel did get published. It was, the first of a trilogy. It was called Kingmaker, and I pitched it as it's The Wire meets Excalibur, because it was my King Arthur in the Hood novel, and people were like, you wrote what? And I'm like, yeah, because I'm writing for me. This is a story I would have loved to have read, but it wasn't around, so I'm writing it now. And so that was my first novel trilogy that got published, and like I said, my career's just sort of taken off ever since then. But I continue to write the stories I wish I could have read when I was coming up, stories that had people that looked like me in them. I just wrote a middle grade, I have my second middle grade detective novel coming out here in the next couple months. Because when I was coming up as a young reader, it's like there were no books that had people like me in them. I read other kid detective novels like Encyclopedia Brown, but I'm just like, well, despite that name, there are no brown people in this book. So I wrote my own called The Usual Suspects, which features two young black boys as the detectives in that series. Because again, I write the books I wish I could have read along the way, and I write the books I wish I could read now, and I continue to let that drive what I choose to write. Man, being a writer is such an interesting journey. You just never know what's going to happen. I know that even just a couple years ago, people reached out to me so I could do consulting on a video game. I was a consultant on a video game called Watch Dogs 2. And then now I'm, sort of like looking around and like I just continually am surprised by the different offers that sort of come my way. One of my projects, Sorcerers, which was a novella that I put out a couple years ago, well, AMC just optioned it to be a TV series. There's a couple other projects. It's a little too early to talk about just yet, but there's been some, we'll just say, various Hollywood interest in several of my stories and novels. Not to get too Hollywood on all of you, but as we sort of track this AMC project, they just renewed the option, which means it's sort of like them calling dibs on the project. But it sounds like they are moving forward with it. I'm hoping to have some news about it here in the next few months, as we're looking to, hopefully it'll be made, the pilot will be made before too long, and then we'll just see how things go. I try to be patient about it because as weird and complicated as the publishing industry is, Hollywood takes that to a whole new level. So I try to not think about all the different things and where the different stages, different projects are at in Hollywood, because I would just be driven insane by that. So what my focus is like, well, I can't control any of that. I can't control the speed at which they move, but what I can control is me writing my next book. And so that's what I focus on. So my book has been pretty well reviewed. I gotta say, it's a nice shout out in the Washington Post about it as an Afrofuturistic series. It's gotten starred reviews in like Publishers Weekly and Kirkus and places like that. And I try not to live and die by reviews, because you live and die by reviews. So so it's one of those things where it's like, okay, it's been well received, and I try to hold on to that, but at the same time, what my main review is, and the ones I look forward to is how do the folks in my community, how do they receive the book? That's what matters to me. That's where I do kind of live and breathe, because they're who I wrote it for. You know, I wrote it for my community. I wanted to, tell the stories of what goes on in my community. I wanted to just demonstrate how much I value and treasure my community, and so just reflect back those stories. That's sort of where I'm at with that. So if so as long as my community loves it, yeah, I'm good. So tonight's event is called All the Stars, and it is the brainchild of Januarie York, who is a force of nature. I think I called her once the undersung hymn of our community, because she's a treasure within this community. And so one of the things that I know I wanted to do when it came to celebrating the book launch of Sweep of Stars is I didn't get here by myself. Right, I came up with alongside other artists. Januarie is one of them. Corey Ewing's one of them. There's a lot of artists in the Cafe Creative Collective that I've come up alongside, and yeah, I just didn't come here by myself. And so this book didn't start by itself. This book was inspired by community, and they are the community that inspires me. So it felt just natural to have an event, yes, celebrating the launch of my book, that celebrates these artists in our communities. And so that they are all the stars in particular. They are the stars of this community. We have hip hop artists, visual artists, we have singers, spoken word poets, because they are the stars of our community, and they are the people who I look up to, who inspire me, and who I am proud to call my friends. So one of the questions I get asked a lot is, so when are you moving to Hollywood? And I'm like, why would I move to Hollywood? I'm good right here. I'm surrounded by this strong artistic community here. There's a strong, I have this strong relational network here, because there are a lot of stars here. I even when we moved to a new neighborhood, and it didn't take long before it's just like, oh wait, those are the jazz artists I listen to, and oh wait, those are the visual artists whose shows I go to, and wait. I know for a fact she's a screenwriter out in Hollywood, and they're all here. And so there are so many unsung heroes here and so much talent here in Indianapolis. It's like, why would I move? Why would I not want to be a part of this burgeoning art scene that's here in Indianapolis? Because, yeah, I honestly feel like Indianapolis is on the cusp of just blowing up. And I don't know where it's going to come from. I don't know if it's going to be a hip-hop artist. I don't know if it's going to be a writer. I don't know if it's going to be one of our poets. But look, this scene is ready to explode, and it is poised, and I want to be right there. For when that tidal wave hits, I'm going to be right there riding that wave. So again, my name is Maurice Broaddus. All my social media is under that. My Facebook, my Twitter, my website is all Maurice Broaddus. My Instagram is also Maurice Broaddus. And like I said, book one is Sweep of Stars, and it's available anywhere you want to buy your books. It'll be there.
I'd like to thank both Januarie York and Maurice Broaddus for chatting with us today. And don't forget to pick up their books wherever books are sold. And to our viewers out there, so that is you right now that is watching, do not forget to hit that subscribe and that like button so that you can be notified for whenever a new interview is posted. Until next time, we'll see you soon.